When you first look at this shelter, what catches your eye is how simple and practical it is. It's a floorless, cone-shaped, and uses a single pole in the center. Depending on the size, it fits 2 to 4 people, and there's enough headroom in the middle for an adult to stand up comfortably. The tent itself weighs around 4 to 6 pounds, and it packs down small enough to carry in a backpack. There's no sewn-in floor, an adjustable vent near the top, reinforced tie-out points, and a stove jack made to resist high temperatures from a chimney. The setup is simple. One center pole holds everything up, which keeps pitching quickly and reduces the number of parts. The cone shape does a good job dealing with wind because air flows around it instead of pushing directly against flat walls. Snow slide off the sides, and when the shelter is properly secured, the pole can support the downward weight. The fabric is ripstop nylon with silicone coating on both sides. This means it resists tearing and doesn't soak up water easily. When it rains or snow melts, the fabric sheds water instead of getting heavy. One of the most useful features is how it works with a wood stove. The stove jack lets you run a chimney safely through the shelter, and the tall shape helps move smoke up and out. This type of swag is a rolled-up sleeping setup that combines shelter and bedding into one piece. It uses a thick canvas outer layer, a waterproof base, and a foam mattress that's about 2 inches thick. Most models are long enough for an adult to stretch out comfortably, around 78 to 84 inches, and wide enough to sleep without feeling cramped. When rolled up, it turns into a compact bundle that's easy to strap to your vehicle. The canvas shell feels solid, and it allows some airflow, which helps keep the inside from feeling stuffy overnight. Zippers are thick and protected by fabric flaps that help block rain. Inside, the foam mattress adds noticeable comfort and helps separate your body from the cold ground. It also smooths out small rocks and hard patches, making sleep more comfortable from night to night. What makes this setup special is how little time it takes at the end of the day. Instead of setting up a tent and dealing with extra sleeping gear, you just roll it out on the ground and add 1 or 2 small poles if the model uses them. In a few minutes, you have a covered place to sleep. In the morning, everything rolls back up together. The patented Polarmond all-in-one tent offers the functions of a tent, several sleeping bags, a sleeping mat, and a vapor barrier liner all in one, declares the company. Depending on the weather, you can use it by itself or add an outer layer, either a lighter bivouac cover or a full tent shell. Instead of crawling into a tight sleeping bag on the ground, you're actually lying inside a warm chamber. That changes how it feels right away. You can move your arms and legs, sit up, and even keep your gear next to you without it freezing overnight. It feels closer to resting in a small room than being wrapped up in layers. As your body warms the space, warm air rises and escapes through a vent near your head. Cooler air comes in lower down, which keeps air moving without needing fans or complicated parts. This airflow helps prevent condensation, so the insulation stays dry. Because moisture doesn't soak into the insulation, the warmth stays more over multiple nights. In cold conditions, people report that the inside can feel much warmer than the air outside, sometimes by a big margin. In very low temperatures, extra liners or warm clothing help keep things comfortable, but the basic structure already does a lot of the work. It's not especially light, but it replaces several pieces of cold weather gear at once. One interesting part of this modular system is how the electricity flows between the panels. In many solar chargers, if one panel is in the shade, the whole system loses a lot of power. Here, the panels have several paths for the current to move through. So if one panel gets less sunlight, the power can still come from the others. This system is made of up to 9 magnetic photovoltaic panels, supporting USB-C output with power delivery and quick charge protocols. capable of producing a combined maximum output of 20 watts. Think of this system as a set of small solar panels that can work on their own, or snap together when more power is needed. Each panel connects to the others with magnets, so there's no need to deal with cables between them. When you bring two panels close, they line up by themselves and start sharing power. You can separate them just as easily, depending on how many you want to use. To charge something, you just plug your device into the USB-C port. It works with fast charging standards, so phones, tablets, cameras, and GPS devices can charge directly without extra gear. It's honestly surprising how much this backpack can do, considering how small it is. The smaller version weighs about 9 ounces, and the larger one about 10.5 ounces. There are 2 sizes, and inside, you get 12 pockets. Access zippers on both sides. The best part is that when you don't need it, the whole thing folds down into a pouch that fits in your hand. What makes it interesting is how it avoids the typical problems of foldable backpacks. Most of them lose their shape and turn into a floppy sack once you put things inside. This one keeps its form much better, so it feels more like a normal day pack. You can use it for commuting, short trips, or as an extra bag when you're traveling and don't want to carry something big all the time. Inside, the layout separates items into different sections, so you're not digging around for stuff at the bottom. Clothes, tech, snacks, and small items all have their own places. There's also a pocket that keeps wet or dirty things away from clean ones, which is useful if you've been to the gym or maybe the beach. "300 lumens of maximum brightness, up to 100 hours of runtime, a 4000 mAh battery, white light with 5 brightness levels. This is a whole new level of light. Think of this as a lantern that also works like a small power bank. It gives you light and can charge your phone at the same time. It fills with air, so when you're not using it, you can flatten it down. When you need it, you just twist it open and it pops into shape. It is small enough with 6 by 6 by 1 inch when flat, and it weighs just 12 ounces. The light itself is pretty strong for its size. At full power, it's bright enough to light up a tent, or even a small room. You can choose between 5 brightness levels, so you don't always have to use the strongest setting. There's also a red light mode, which is handy at night. For more, you just plug your phone into the USB port like you would with any power bank. Depending on your phone, you can get a couple of full charges out of it. When you sleep outside with no tent, your brain often becomes more alert to natural sounds like wind and animals. Some researchers think this is an ancient survival response. Your sleep becomes lighter and more on guard, similar to how early humans slept in the wild. That's why having a proper shelter can make such a difference. A one-person, 4-season tent acts less like minimal camping gear and more like a small personal refuge. The low tunnel profile helps it deal with strong wind, and the pole layout spreads pressure across the structure. With the main pole and extra cross poles working together, the tent holds its shape well during heavy snow. Weighing around 5 to 6 pounds and packing down to about 20 by 6 inches. It gives you enough space to stretch out, keep your gear close, and even sit up comfortably, offering a sense of security and deeper rest. The floor material is thicker and reinforced in high-stress areas, which helps when setting up on frozen ground. You don't feel like you need an extra layer underneath right away. There's a single entrance that leads into a small vestibule. Did you know that campfire smoke rises because hot air is lighter, and the crackling sound comes from moisture inside the wood, turning into steam and bursting through the fibers? That's pretty interesting, right? Well, now let's check Ozpig. It functions like a contained firebox that burns wood and turns that heat into something useful. You load the fuel through the front door, light it, and control the burn using the vent. Meanwhile, heat radiates from the metal body, warming the nearby area and even allowing you to cook on top. The firebox is raised on legs, keeping the heat away from the ground below and helping contain everything in one place. A spark arrestor at the top of the chimney reduces the chance of stray embers drifting off. You can cook directly above the fire, and the removable plates make it easy to switch between different styles. You can cook straight on the surface, place a pan over the opening, or adjust things depending on how much heat you want. The unit weighs about 40 pounds, and when assembled with the chimney installed, it stands close to 59 inches tall and takes up a footprint of around 21 by 21 inches. The cooking surface includes a round plate about 10 inches in diameter and a larger flat plate. Waterdrop effectively reduces 99% of harmful substances. It's about 7 inches long and a little over an inch wide, and it works using several layers of filters inside. It can be used in two main ways, either by drinking directly through it like a straw, or by attaching it to a bottle or water bag so water flows through it by gravity. What's interesting about this kind of filter is that it doesn't need batteries or chemical tablets. It works purely through physical filtering. When water is pulled in, it moves through different layers that each remove specific types of impurities. The first layer catches large visible stuff like sand and dirt. After that, the water goes through the main filter, which is made of thousands of tiny hollow fibers. These fibers have extremely small holes, about 0.1 microns wide, which are small enough to block most bacteria. Next, the water flows through an activated carbon layer. This part focuses more on how the water smells and tastes. It helps reduce unpleasant odors and flavors by trapping organic compounds and some chemical residues. At the end, there's another fine filter that catches very small particles that might still be left. This product brings together three important pieces into one system: a shovel, a probe, and an emergency shelter. The shovel is made of aluminum and has a telescopic shaft that adjusts from about 25 to 37 inches. Inside the handle, there is an avalanche probe that reaches about 94 inches when fully assembled. When set up, the shelter measures roughly 7 feet long, 4 feet wide, and 2.5 feet high, using the shovel handle and 2 ski or trekking poles as support. In snowy backcountry areas, this kind of gear works as an all-in-one safety system instead of separate tools. The shovel is the main part and is used first in an avalanche situation to dig through snow and reach a buried person. The aluminum structure gives enough strength for serious digging without adding too much weight to a backpack. Walking on ice sometimes feels like trying to stay upright on a banana peel. One wrong step and suddenly gravity feels a lot stronger than usual. That's exactly the kind of problem Vibram Arctic Grip tries to solve, using a different approach than most winter shoes. It is a special type of rubber used on shoe soles that helps people walk more safely on icy surfaces. It does not rely on metal spikes or studs. The grip comes from the rubber itself. The material is made to stay flexible in cold weather and can hold onto wet ice better than normal rubber, which is important because wet ice is one of the hardest surfaces to walk on. The main idea behind Arctic Grip is pretty simple. Regular rubber gets stiff when it is cold, and when that happens, it cannot press properly against the ground. Arctic Grip uses a different rubber formula that stays softer even when temperatures drop. Because it can still bend and adapt to the surface, it keeps more contact with the ice, which helps improve grip while walking. Another important part of how it works is the way the bottom of the sole is shaped. The small patterns and grooves are placed in a way that increases contact with the ground and helps deal with the thin water layer that forms on ice. Search and rescue teams respond to tens of thousands of incidents each year, many of them involving injured outdoor adventurers. When emergencies happen, the first 3 days are often the hardest. During this time, help might not arrive, and basic services like power, water, or communication can be unavailable. This system is designed to help 2 people get through those critical 72 hours by keeping important survival tools organized and in one accessible place. The core of the system is a base panel that uses a hook and loop backing, so all the pieces attach but can still be removed easily. You can take out one section, swap it with another, or change the layout in a few seconds. This makes it easier to adjust the system for different situations. This system works more like a structured setup. Inside, everything has its own place, and you can move sections around, depending on what you think you'll need most. That means you don't have to dig through a mess to find something important. You can quickly see where things are. For more, the straps can be folded in when not in use and pulled out when you need to carry it. This is a one-person shelter made from a special 3-layer fabric called nanopore. It's also treated with an eco-friendlier coating that doesn't use harmful chemicals. The shelter is long enough for most people to stretch out, a bit wider at the head and narrower at the feet, and just tall enough to give you some headroom. On its own, it's pretty lightweight, and even when fully packed with everything, it's still easy to carry. Inside the package, you get 3 aluminum poles, a ground layer to protect the bottom, mesh panels to keep bugs out, stakes, guy lines, and all the little details like sealed seams and strong zippers. There's a built-in ground sheet that comes up the sides like a bathtub, which helps stop water from sneaking in during rain. There's also a small internal space where you can keep your gear. The idea behind this shelter is to mix the comfort of old-school swags with the compact size of a bivvy. So instead of feeling like you're wrapped in a tight sleeping bag, you get a fully enclosed personal space that still feels organized and protected. Imagine you're out for a walk on a bright, sunny day, enjoying the warm weather, when suddenly it starts to rain. How many times has that happened to you? Let me know in the comments below. For me, the last time was actually today. Moments like these are exactly why a small umbrella can be so useful. This particular umbrella is a 3rd generation, pocket-sized model. It uses a hook and loop system, a special water-repelling fabric, and a compact folding structure. The key idea is that the fabric can stick to itself, so when you close it, you simply wrap it around and it stays secured without buttons. You can also shake most of the rain off before putting it away, which helps keep your bag drier. What really stands out is how the closing system works. Instead of dealing with a small band or clip, the fabric itself does the job. You press parts of the canopy together, and they stick, keeping the umbrella neatly folded. It's a simple peel and stick motion, and it means you don't have to line things up carefully or struggle to keep it closed. Here we have a compact mechanical alarm that comes with 2 50-foot trip wires, a trip pin, and several ways to mount it. It works as a trip alarm and can use 12-gauge blanks, as well as 15mm bear bangers, signaling flares, and screamer whistles. It is here to let you know when something crosses a line you've set up. And the best part, it doesn't need batteries, but it works with a strong spring inside. When someone hits the trip wire, the system releases that spring and triggers a loud sound, or a flare, depending on what you loaded into it. To set it up, you pull down a ring to compress the spring and lock it in place with a pin. Then, you stretch the tripwire between 2 objects and connect it to the device. Once it's set, any movement on the wire releases the pin and activates the signal. It's basically turning physical movement into noise or light. You can also use it by hand without a tripwire. In that case, you just load a blank or flare, pull the ring, and release it to trigger the signal right away. That makes it useful if you want to create noise or send a signal on purpose. Estimates suggest that around 2,000 to 5,000 people go missing on trails each year, and many end up needing search and rescue assistance, which highlights the importance of reliable navigation gear. This device, featuring a 3-inch touchscreen that remains easy to read in bright sunlight and reinforced glass that stands up to everyday outdoor wear. Despite its durability, it weighs roughly 5.3 ounces. It is built to resist impacts and can handle dust and water exposure, even brief submersion. Internally, it supports multiple satellite navigation systems such as GPS, GLONASS, and Galileo, and comes preloaded with topo-active maps for detailed route planning. Additional features include Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connectivity, a digital compass, and a barometric altimeter, all powered by an internal battery. Depending on usage, battery life can last up to 130 hours in standard mode, or as long as 650 hours in expedition mode. Because it uses more than one satellite system, it keeps a stronger signal forests, mountains, or deep valleys. The system automatically manages how it uses satellites so it stays accurate without draining the battery too fast. Everything is controlled through the touch screen, so using it feels similar to using a phone. You can move around the map with your fingers, zoom in on areas, and plan routes directly on the screen. Rocks, hot charcoal, broken glass, nails. These knee pads survived it all. They are made with a hard rubber outer shell, thick gel, and EVA foam on the inside, a strong polyester fabric on the outside, and a soft neoprene lining that sits against the skin. In simple terms, all these layers work together to protect your knees from hard surfaces while still letting you move naturally. When you spend a lot of time kneeling, the stress on your knees adds up quickly. These pads act like a cushion between your body and the floor, taking some of that pressure off your joints. The gel inside compresses when you kneel and slowly returns to its shape, which helps reduce how much force goes straight into your knees. The shape of the pads follows the curve of your knees, so they don't feel awkward or shift around too much when you bend or stand up. They tend to stay in place instead of sliding down your leg, which makes a big difference when you're moving a lot. The raised front also takes a bit of pressure off your ankles, which can help you feel more balanced, especially when the surface isn't perfectly flat. The straps can be adjusted to fit different leg sizes, and once they're set properly, the pads stay secure without feeling too tight. Running out of battery always seems to happen at the worst possible time. Like when your phone hits 1% right as you want to take a photo. This device tries to solve that problem. Rather than being a sealed block that becomes useless when its internal battery gets old, this works more like a small power system. The main idea is simple. The battery is not permanent. When one runs out, you just take it out and put in another one. Kind of like swapping batteries in a flashlight. There's no waiting around for the whole unit to recharge, and no need to plug into a wall if you already have a spare battery with you. Power comes out through a USB-C connection, and the internal electronics cover voltage conversion and system protection so it can safely charge things like smartphones, cameras, and other USB-C devices. The amount of power you get depends on how many batteries you decide to carry. With two standard 5000 mAh cells, you get about 10,000 mAh of total capacity. Ever had that moment where you're trying to fix something simple and realize you're missing exactly the one tool you need? This feels like it was made for those situations. At first, it just looks like a normal carabiner you'd clip onto your backpack. But once you look closer, it turns out to be more like a tiny toolbox hidden in that shape. Instead of carrying a bunch of separate tools, this puts several basic ones into a single piece of metal. It includes things like a folding utility blade with replaceable blades, a hex bit driver that uses magnets to hold and store bits, a flathead screwdriver, a small diamond file, and a pry bar. On the titanium version, there's also a bottle opener. You also get a ruler built into the edge, along with a small bubble level for quick alignment checks. There's even a slot for a tritium glow tube, so it can be easier to spot in the dark without using batteries. The blade folds neatly into the body, so it stays protected when you're not using it. The magnetic bit system is surprisingly practical, since it keeps small parts from getting lost and makes switching bits simple. It works well for small tasks like opening boxes, tightening loose screws, adjusting small parts, or prying open lids. This sleep system works a bit differently from what most people are used to. It creates a small enclosed space where warm air stays around you. Your body heat does the work, helped by layers of insulation and reflective materials. It can handle temperatures from -22 degrees Fahrenheit up to 77 degrees Fahrenheit. The total weight changes based on how you set it up, starting around 8 pounds for the main sleep shell, and going up to about 11 pounds with the full tent attached. One of the key ideas behind the system is how it deals with body vapor. A liner inside catches vapor before it can reach the insulation. Warm air moves towards small ventilation openings, which helps prevent condensation from building up where it shouldn't. Inside, there's noticeably more room than in a typical sleeping bag. You can roll onto your side, stretch your legs, or shift around without feeling trapped or squeezing the insulation flat. There's even space to keep a few small items inside with you. Finding a good place to rest outdoors is often harder than it should be. Sometimes the ground isn't flat, sometimes there are no good trees, and sometimes setting up a shelter takes more time than expected. This system tries to solve that. This system uses an air beam frame, sealed seams that keep air inside for long periods, carbon spreader bars, adjustable straps and buckles, and a reinforced outer shell that holds up against wind and rain. It can be used as a hammock, a ground tent, or a suspended shelter. The whole structure inflates in under a minute. And when the air is released, it folds down and fits easily in a backpack. When it's hanging, the airframe helps keep your body more level, so you don't sink into the middle. On the ground, it works more like a small tent. Once you inflate it, the air beams lock into place and form a solid shell around you. Because the structure is flexible, it can absorb wind instead of fighting against it, while still keeping its shape. This product is made from a special type of Mylar, a thin plastic material that reflects heat. The sheet is 26 microns thick, which is about twice as thick as most basic emergency blankets. It comes in the shape of a poncho, with a hood, so it covers your body and your head at the same time. The size is large enough for most people, measuring about 46 inches from the hood to the bottom and around 49 inches across. When it's folded, it becomes very small, about the size of a deck of cards. It basically helps your body keep its heat. It doesn't warm you up by itself, but it reflects your own body heat back towards you and blocks wind and rain. This makes a big difference if you're stuck in cold or wet weather. The hood is especially useful because a lot of body heat escapes from your head, and covering it helps you stay warmer overall. In real life, this is the kind of thing people keep in a car, hiking bag, or emergency kit and forget about until they need it. Hopefully they will remember when it is, when they actually need it. With 35 square feet of interior space and a peak height of 40 inches that runs across the entire length, this shelter works as a freestanding tent for 2 people. In simple terms, this is one shelter that can be used in several different ways. On the ground, it works like a normal tent, but with more usable space than most because the ceiling stays high across the full length instead of sloping down quickly. When used in hammock mode, the tent body becomes the hammock itself. It hangs between two anchor points and keeps the same fly and mesh around you, so you still get cover from rain and insects. The fly light mode strips things down to just the fly, poles, and footprint. This creates a simple overhead shelter that works more like a tarp. It's helpful when you want shade or rain cover. Inside, there are 6 pockets, 9 hanging loops, 2 ceiling diffuser pockets, nano-weight no-seam mesh, katabatic venting, and a roll-up stuff sack. The Thylacine sleeping bag system breaks away from the one-size-fits-all approach by offering a highly customizable technical structure. Rather than relying on a fixed temperature rating, it functions as a modular system where you can swap out internal insulation layers, known as baffles, to handle everything from 40 degrees Fahrenheit down to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. This design allows you to adapt to the specific forecast of your trip, whether you prefer the wet weather reliability of synthetic insulation, the lightweight warmth of down, or a hybrid of both. Since these layers are removable, maintenance is easy. Beyond its adaptable core, the Thylacine is precise, efficient fit through adjustable body width zones and an extendable footbox that shifts by 3 to 5 inches. By tightening the bag's dimensions to your frame, you eliminate the dead air spaces that often lead to cold spots. The materials are high performance, silky soft, heat reflective liners, and weather resistant. For those heading into difficult conditions, one version even serves as a waterproof bivvy style shell. Now let's look at some concept tents we found while searching for this video. Some companies are experimenting with different materials to bring these ideas to life. If you've ever watched a survival show and thought, I'd probably forget half that stuff in real life, this kind of gear is for moments like that, when things don't go as planned. The whole setup revolves around a few core items: an emergency shelter, an emergency sleeping bag, a backpack, and a water bottle pouch. The shelter and the bivvy both use reflective material, similar to what you see in space blankets. It's more about creating a small protected space than staying comfortable. As for the numbers, the shelter measures about 8 feet by 5 feet and weighs less than 9 ounces. The shelter works like a tube that hangs between 2 supports using paracord. There are no poles or rigid parts, so it's quick to set up and there's less that can break. The bivvy does the same thing but wraps directly around the person, forming a closed layer that keeps heat from escaping too fast. The backpack acts as a general carry system. It uses a modular webbing layout so extra pouches can be attached, and it has space inside for a hydration bladder. The straps and back padding help spread the load, making it easier to carry for longer periods. This video is to show you the actual outdoor camping scenarios for the super lightweight one-person backpacking tent. It measures about 98 by 35 by 35 inches. Weight is around 4 pounds, and you can get it in different colors, include green, khaki, and orange, with 2 versions, standard and with snow skirt. The single pole layout keeps setup time short and limits the number of components required. The waterproof values are relatively high for a solo backpacking tent. A 3,500mm rainfly can handle prolonged rainfall, while the 4,000mm floor resists water pressure from wet soil. The bathtub-style floor raises the edges of the ground layer, helping isolate the sleeping area from surface water and splashback. The interior length of nearly 8 feet provides more room than many one-person shelters. This allows taller users to lie down without touching the walls and still keep personal gear inside. The narrow width reflects a typical solo layout, where space is optimized around a sleeping pad and a compact gear arrangement.